Welcome to the Baltimore Flockcast, the #1 Baltimore Ravens podcast in the world. Today, we're going to be talking about how the Ravens could possibly make history, be the first team in the AFC North to ever do so. Also, how we are robbed of our 30-year anniversary patch on our jerseys. The most underappreciated Ravens of all time. Issues with ring culture in sports, and also how the future will look if Lamar gets his first Super Bowl ring. Let's dive right into it. Welcome back, everyone. By the way, made some stickers. I figured it's a fun way to market the podcast. So, if you guys know me, you want a sticker, random person, send in a message. I'll send you one for free. I got you. Now to the real stuff. So the Ravens could be the first team in AFC North history to do this. Make some history here. They So if they win the AFC North this year, they'd be the first team in division history to ever three-peat, which sounds insane. But you also got to remember, I guess for the younger crowd that are listening to this podcast, AFC North started in 2002, so this is kind of a cherry-picked stat, but at the same time, it's still a feat. Also, you got to realize, this is the off-season. There's going to be some talking points that let's get right into it. We've had a lot of teams that have, I think the Steelers have won it twice, 2 years in a row, 2 times. Bengals won it 2 years in a row once. We've won it 2 years in a row twice as well. No team's ever won it 3. I think the only thing that's holding us back is an explosion from the Bengals. I saw someone, might take the quote from it, but I saw someone say that the Bengals defense can only get better because it was so bad last year. And that is a pretty good point. I don't see the Ravens finishing second or definitely not third in this division unless a terrible thing happens. I keep saying this. I don't want to bring that up as very bad vibes. We're not going to keep touching the I word. I definitely think we will be the first team in AFC North history to three-peat this year. I don't know if they'll make t-shirts or anything fun out of it, but it is a cool stat. I guess we could cram down Steelers, Browns, and Bengals fans' throats, because that's fun. It is also kind of surprising, before we move on, I wouldn't say that I would expect it from us in the Flacco era, because we were a good team, especially back then the early 2000s as well, but not dominant enough to do that, especially with the Steelers dynasty and how good they were. But it is very surprising to think, man, that the Steelers never three-peated, never won it 3 years in a row, especially with Big Ben and the rings. It is kind of weird, but let's not talk about the Steelers. They suck now. I think we were definitely robbed of a cool jersey patch. Maybe you guys don't care as much as I do, but it's always fun, especially for them to make money off of idiots like me. Sell the same exact jersey with just a stupid little patch on there. Just, 30-year anniversary. Give me something, man. I don't know if I'm 100% right here. Probably should have looked it up. But call me out if I'm wrong. But I swear every, 5 or 10 years, we've had that patch. 5 years ago for the 25th year anniversary, we had that patch. The 20th as well. What are we doing? Why do we not have something for 30? This is the most, I would say it's the best anniversary we've had yet, because it's the oldest one. Obviously it's going to happen every year. It's a stupid thing to say. And especially because we don't see much change to the Ravens uniform. I guess it's kind of a bummer. That does, I had to get the cat out of here, sorry. It does also, I got to talk about this one. It does make me happy that the Ravens don't make a lot of changes to their uniforms. A lot of people want new helmets, new this, new that, new third uniform. Yes, it would be really nice to get something awesome. But let's be honest, look at the track record in the NFL of recent jersey releases. They're awful. The Texans rebrand looks god-awful. The Rams their blue home uniform is probably the worst jersey I've ever seen in sports history. I'll put it out there. Modern sports history. There's been some bad ones. It's just, the numbers, it looks like duct tape. I don't know. I'm not saying the Ravens would make a terrible jersey or a terrible uniform, but we got something really cool. Our uniforms are notorious Especially, I've seen so many TikToks where you have like guys over there in the UK, British dudes. They're just big soccer guys, and they're blindly ranking NFL jerseys, and you always hear the Ravens in the top three, top five. What's the saying? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I'm not going to be an old man and say we shouldn't get new uniforms. I'm just saying, don't rush it and get super aggressive about them pushing something out. Because if you push them, I'm telling you, we might get something we don't want. But I am waiting. What's it? 2028. We get those rivals uniforms because the NFL. I don't know if you guys have heard this one. They're going division by division and making a uniform that they wear only in these divisional matchups, and every division is going to have their own year. So I think it's the AFC East this year. So the Patriots, the Dolphins, the Jets, and the Bills all get their own uniform. It's kind of a cool idea, you know. It's like the color rush or whatever, but makes it more personalized because only a small group get it every year. I like the idea. We were definitely robbed. So, most underappreciated Ravens of all time. This is definitely something I want to start big time on our social media, like I'm gonna call it Twitter still. I'm not gonna say X. That's stupid. Our Twitter page, our Instagram. We've been posting the countdown. I keep saying we. It's just me. I've been posting the countdown every day. Like, for example, 20 days until Ravens football will be Ed Reed, or 16, Tylan Wallace, things like that. I want to also do something with the underappreciated Ravens of all time because I'm going to talk about it on here. But it'd be nice to have a deeper dive on social media, the non-podcast avenues at least. So here's a little list I had. I'll start with the most interesting one, at least in my opinion. Troy Smith, in my opinion, is the most underappreciated Raven possibly ever. Excuse me. Some of you may be thinking, who is Troy Smith? He's a quarterback that never really played for us. That's the interesting thing. So Troy won the Heisman at Ohio State. He was drafted by the Ravens. And 2008 came around, and it was Flacco's rookie year. I didn't write down what he did before Flacco, but Troy never really proved himself. I forgot what happened before the Flacco stage. Wasn't a big difference in age, but either way, I think Troy was like a fifth-round pick. Played catch with them on M&T Bank, Davis Field, by the way. Kind of sick, you know. It's like 5 years old. But either way. So Troy Smith was supposed to start week one for Flacco's rookie year. And Troy Smith, at the last second, I think it was Saturday night, he got the flu. And they were like, all right, you know, I guess we have to start Flacco. And then Flacco started week one, and then the rest is history. So I'm going to step it up one step farther here and not say that Troy Smith is the most underappreciated Raven of all time, but Troy Smith's weakened immune system is the most underappreciated Raven of all time. If he wouldn't have got the flu, we wouldn't have had Flacco start week one. And who knows? Maybe we would have never won that Super Bowl. So, Troy Smith, I hope it all worked out for you. I'm not sure what you did after football, but I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting sick and not starting week one. You know, I wish it would have worked out with you, but I'm happy it worked out the way it did. It may sound bad, but thank you for getting sick. So back to more of a real list here. I'm just going to, I guess I can name all of them and we can go through, or maybe I'll go one by one. This is kind of a gimme if you've been a Ravens fan in the past 10 years at least. But Sam Cook, man, what a good punter. It's hard because not a lot of punters are talked about at all because, let's be real, they're punters. But Sam held it down. He was one of the best punters in the NFL for all of his career. It's great, too, because we've never had to really worry about special teams being a Ravens fan. And so big shout out to this guys like Matt Stover, Sam. We're not going to name the guy who's on trial right now, but we've been held down by some really good special teams play. So hopefully Hoyland or Tyler Luke, they continue that trend. Yeah, maybe one of the greatest punters of all time, Sam Cook. This is a fun one. Bryant McKinney, one of my favorite linemen growing up. This guy was an absolute monster. He was so big. I think that was probably why I was such a fan of him. At least in him and Madden was pretty nasty too. What was his actual? I think he was 6'6". Brian McKinney, man, he's 45 years old now. This guy, 6'8". Good God. Man, why don't we have a weight on here now? Okay, yeah. So at least the last recorded weight when he was playing football, 353 pounds. I remember every time this man would come in for training camp, they'd be like, "Yeah, he's out of shape and he needs to lose like 50 pounds, or else they're not letting him play." Man would lose weight and he would find a way, and he'd be one of the best tackles, at least in my opinion. When I was like an 8-year-old watching him every year, love Brian McKinney. Big slept on. Shout out to the big man. Vonta Leach, I felt kind of weird putting him on this list. And sorry we're kind of flying through, but we're going to do the deep dive on X, Twitter, and Instagram, so check it out there. Vonta Leach, this feels kind of dumb to leave him on here because he's such a, I feel like at least, a notorious Raven. Notorious is bad, but such a beloved Raven. But maybe it's just me because I'm a big fullback guy. Vonta Leach, got a signed jersey of him in the house somewhere. Just moved in here recently, so I don't know exactly where it is. Don't fight. You know, Super Bowl winning fullback for us. If you guys don't remember, it makes me sick if you don't remember, man. he hasn't been retired for that long. But it's kind of hard before we continue doing how people do like the Mount Rushmores or the countdowns or just looking at the greatest players in Ravens history. It's a little hard because you got to remember, this is only our 30th season coming up. There's been pretty much 3 generations of Ravens, and that's it. There was the beginning with Ray and like pretty much the all defense era, I guess you could call that. I would say that lasted up until 2008 when we drafted Joe Flacco. At 2008 era, I would call that the Flacco era until we drafted Lamar, and that started the Lamar era. 3 eras right there. Sorry if he shook the camera, man. Need to get the animals out of here for the next podcast. They're messing this up. Yeah, it's a little hard. So that's why it may sound dumb naming players like that, but you got to keep in mind, 30 years. Vonta Leach, one of my favorite Ravens of all time, especially because he wore the number 44, but we'll move on from him. Marlon Brown, this guy, until Zay Flowers, had like the best rookie season as a receiver in Ravens history. We thought we had the next guy, and then he fell off the face of the earth, pretty much. Injuries and everything that had happened, but Marlon Brown, I'll never forget the game in the snow against the Vikings. Man, we are not good at drafting receivers if you look at our history, but that's changing, so that's good. Yeah, Marlon Brown, dude's built like a horse. Clydesdale, I'm not going to say a stallion because that's a different thing now. No Meg. Another receiver, Mark Clayton. This was probably my favorite receiver growing up as a Ravens fan. Everyone was a Derek Mason guy. I was a Mark Clayton guy. Mark Clayton was our receiver too in that Kyle Bowler era. I'm not going to say it was Kyle Bowler era, but Kyle Bowler existed in the defense era. We'll say that. And it sucks because we had 2 really solid receivers in Mark Clayton and Derek Mason, and we didn't have anyone to throw them the ball. So, man, if only they could have played in a different era with one of our real quarterbacks. A huge one, I'm a big fan of at least, Samari Rolle, cornerback from back in the defense era. Played a little, I think he played with Flacco as well for a few years, if not, sorry. Samari is one of my favorite Ravens of all time. It'd be kind of cool to get a throwback, or at least a picture of him for the house. But yeah, if you guys don't know, Samari Rolle, he really had some hard issues in his career because he got diagnosed with epilepsy while he was playing in the NFL and missed a good portion of at least one season. I forget what year, maybe like 2007. Can't remember the exact year, but either way, finding out you have epilepsy in the middle of an NFL season, dealing with seizures, and then trying to go out and figure it out on the field while you're taking new medication that changes the way your reality is crazy. Sorry, I'm wheezing over here. So yeah, it's very impressive to look at the career he had, especially with the adversity he went through. So very inspiring, especially as a man with epilepsy myself. I gotta say, Samari Rolle is one of the GOATs. Another fun one from the defense era, Kelly Gregg. For you new Ravens fans, if you guys don't know who Kelly Gregg is, look up a picture right now. My favorite thing about Kelly Gregg when I was a young Ravens fan, I just remember anytime you'd watch the game, you knew where Kelly was. Yeah, this is the best thing I could say, or example or comparison I can make. Kelly Gregg was, I don't know if I'm Refrigerator Perry, but because he's just a blob. He's like Michael. This is it. Kelly Gregg's like Michael Pierce, but the vanilla Michael Pierce. Let's pull up his height and weight. This is gonna be a good one. Yeah, dude looked like he was 400 pounds. Biggest guy on the field at all times. 6 foot flat, 320 pounds. There's no way he was that skinny. If you pull up a picture of this guy, you'd be like, all right, he's easily 350. Hopefully he lost the weight after the league. I'm sure he did because he's still alive. I'm not trying to be rude, but big guys don't live that long if you don't cut that weight. But Kelly, probably the best defensive tackle, at least according to me, not off of stats or actual numbers here, just off of ambiance. Like when you think you're recording a movie, like a football movie, Kelly Gregg's the number one guy you have as your defensive tackle, your nose guard. You just get that giant, huge white guy to plug up the middle. Shout out to Kelly Gregg. That'd be a nice throwback jersey too. Another good one, another corner, Ladarius Webb. Felt kind of criminal to leave him on here, but I feel like a lot of Ravens fans have already forgotten I'd say his legacy. I know he's in the Ring of Honor now, but man, Ladarius was a dog for us. A lot of clutch interceptions, locking down dudes. Big fan of Ladarius. And the best one I'll end off with for our underappreciated Ravens, Dennis Pitta. I'm not going to lie. We've had so many good tight ends in our history, like Todd Heap, Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely we have now. The list goes on and on and on. I don't want to keep going. But you forget about guys just like Dennis Pitta. Like, there was a point in my life where I thought Dennis Pitta's arguably better than Gronk, which was so wrong when I was a younger kid. But Dennis Pitta was that guy. And it's crazy how just, 10 years goes by and you almost forget about someone. When I was making this list, I was just, on my notes app trying to think of guys for this that I could throw in. And then Pitta popped in my head. And I was like, man, I kind of forgot he even existed. That makes me feel terrible. Oh, one fun one I'll tell you guys about. I was, for some reason, going to put Crockett Gilmore on this list because I love Crockett Gilmore back in the day. I pulled up his stat page, StatMuse, whatever it's called. I don't think he had more than like 300 receiving yards in a season or 400. I know he was more of a blocking guy, especially how he switched to tackle in his career. But man, looking back on the past, it really gets changed if you like a guy. But yeah, Crockett Gilmore, big fan, but man, you really did not. You're more of a what could have been. So this is one where it's kind of iffy here, but hear me out. So I wanted to talk about the issues of ring culture in sports. For those that are a little lost, that's just winning championships and how that dictates how good a player is and their, at least defined in their legacy. Basketball, I kind of get it because there's 5 people on the court. So the LeBron talk and all that, sure, whatever. But we're talking about football here. Yes, before I get into this as well, I think, as many others do, winning is a quarterback stat. Because let's be real, guys. This team, one of the best teams in football, right? If Lamar gets hurt, do you think we're still going to win the Super Bowl? Probably not. I definitely don't. I know we have Derrick Henry, but we're going to be pretty one-dimensional. Think about on the flip side, Lamar's healthy. We got a lot of guys out, like let's say, Derrick Henry's out, maybe Zay Flowers, a couple guys on the defense. We still got a chance because Lamar's there. So winning is a quarterback stat. So we'll preface it with that. But I think we've gone too far. There is a lot of bad teams in history, including the Ravens, that have won a Super Bowl with a bad quarterback. Sorry, Trent Dilfer, you're not good, or we're not good. And there's more than that. There's not a lot, obviously, but there's been a few quarterbacks that definitely not willed their team to a win. And there's also guys, too, where you look at this argument and you feel like it's very warped because they'll say, Tom Brady's the GOAT because he has 6 rings, but Eli Manning's not mentioned as I mean, you could say an elite quarterback, but we're talking about greatest quarterbacks of all time. I don't think he's there. But if you're going off of just the ring argument, Eli Manning's nowhere near this argument. Dude has 2 rings. Dude has more rings than his brother Peyton, but Peyton's one of the GOATs. How does that make sense, right? And then we also have guys like Jalen Hurts. He just won a Super Bowl last year, but no one talks about Jalen. I could give a shit less about Jalen. So why does it only matter for some, and then it doesn't matter for the others? So Lamar not having success in the postseason is such a big issue, but when Jalen wins a Super Bowl, who gives a shit? How does that make sense? Get out of here. This all stems from, because I had this written down before, that what would happen if Lamar won a Super Bowl to his legacy? How would it change? I don't know. I think it does change, but the whole conversation about ring culture and how that defines your legacy, it's definitely been muddied and destroyed by these big take analysts, and that pisses me off. Oh, here's a sticker, by the way, guys, on the back of the phone. Look at that. But speaking about that ring culture, with the Super Bowl win, does Lamar become a top 10 quarterback of all time? Of course. Before we even go super deep into that, I think just skill-wise, we're talking about just skill, athleticism, Lamar is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Hear me out. You could definitely say, athlete-wise, Lamar is the most athletic quarterback of all time. Maybe the most gifted all around. Does that make him the best quarterback of all time? No. I think it would definitely change the public's perception if he got a ring this year. He would for sure be in that conversation. You guys need to get out of the camera. Good Lord. If Lamar gets 2 rings, he's immediately in there with Mahomes Brady conversation. I know we just did that long thing about ring culture, but this is how people perceive quarterbacks, and it's probably not going to change. So, man, that's kind of crazy to think that with just 1 season this year, Lamar could cement himself as definitely top 10 quarterback of all time. I think it will happen. So that's why I'm saying you guys should put in your bets. I'm not advocating for gambling, but it's a pretty good idea. Thank you guys for coming out to the Flockcast. Going on a little bit of a bachelor trip this weekend, so we're just going to stick to 1 episode this week, and once I'm back from the beach, we'll pump out 1 or 2 episodes for you, because we're going to training camp. We'll be up at the castle next Wednesday, so definitely going to be a great action-packed episode. Hopefully some interviews. I know we can't film while we're in camp, so we'll see what we can do for you guys. But thank you for coming out. Appreciate you.